Hey guys, welcome back. It's your boy F6. We are going in our first video of our new series called Hero Overview, where we dive in a little bit more in depth and trying to get a better understanding of the heroes to help out new players or just to give a few tips and tricks to veteran players as well. If you guys liked the video, hit that like button, comment down below, let me know what you think, or just give me a recommendation if of a hero that you need help with, and we could do another one on that. And if you guys haven't yet, hit that subscribe button down below. I greatly appreciate it. It helps me out a lot. With other than that, let's get straight into it. As you can see, her basic attack, durability, mobility are not really there, but her ability power is insane. Her early game is ridiculous on how much damage she can do. Obviously, she doesn't have an escape, but she makes up for it with the damage she does. She is a mage, so the primary roles you're going to be seeing her in is mid and support. If you're putting her in any other role, as I said before, you are trolling. With these abilities, you also want to keep in mind that each role you're going to level something differently to max out based on what you're trying to accomplish. Void Bomb. You place a bomb that detonates after a short delay, dealing magical damage, and it restores a certain amount of mana for each enemy hit, going higher and higher for each level as you level it up. So not only does this thing does damage, but it also gives you some sustain in lane. What you're going to want to do with the Void Bomb is it's going to be your primary ability that you're going to be leveling up first and maxing out first throughout the game. Also with the innovation passive, you get an increase on your scaling, so it goes all the way up to 80% instead of having that 16/75% scaling when you're going throughout leveling in the game. So once you get that max all the way out, you should be starting to chunk a lot more, especially since you'll have a little bit more magical power, and that scaling is going to help as well. Seismic Assault. You slam the ground, sending forth a seismic wave that deals magical damage to all enemies in its path, also knocking them up and stunning them for a certain period of time. At the very beginning, it's only a little bit over a 1-second stun, but as soon as the innovation passive links in and you max out the ability, it's now a 1.5 second stun. A lot of people might think that's, oh, it's only 0.4 more seconds, or 0.5 more seconds, sorry. But that's a long duration in a game, especially when you're trying to blink out or hey, you want to get another ability off. So this is really effective. This is going to be the second ability that you're going to max out. The Seismic Assault with the Void Bomb is going to be your go-to combo when you're going to try and do as max damage output. So you're going to be looking to get off a Seismic Assault and then throwing the Void Bomb on top of them to get your combo to be complete. Void Drone. You deploy a drone for 8 seconds that drains a percent of damage of enemy heroes and attacks them when they cast an ability dealing magical damage. With the innovation passive, it empowers the drone's attacks to also drain 4% of the target's maximum mana. Not only are you decreasing the enemy's mana and then doing damage to them at this max level of drone, but now you're also able to decrease more mana, 4% to be exact, from the target, decreasing their time they're allowed to stay in those fights. You might be thinking that's not a big deal, but that is going to be a huge factor to a lot of these heroes that are mana dependent to really get off their high burst of damage. Obviously not the carries because they're very auto attack focused. Neural Disruptor. Target an enemy hero, unleashing a heavy blast from Lieutenant Belica's sidearm, dealing magical damage. Damage increases by a certain amount for each point of mana the target is missing. Whenever innovation is active, this range now increases by 300 units. A lot of people will look at the numbers and say this is not a lot of damage coming out of her ult, but if you take into consideration the damage increase per mana points missing, that is not saying a percentage of mana missing. This is the exact points you have at the little bar down below. And let's say, for instance, you're building Azor's Core and you're stacking up your mana to be increased higher, or you're building items with mana to have a little bit more sustain. She's very detrimental to other mid laners. As support, this is not really too much of a factor because you're not building damage and you're not trying to kill steal. You want to give your kill to the carry. So it's not as a high impact, but it's still deadly as well. So be aware of that. So we'll go over this again. So as a mid, you're looking to level up Void Bomb first, then your Seismic Assault, then your Void Drone. When you're in a support role, you're looking to level up your Void Drone first, then your Seismic Assault, then your Void Bomb. Some people might have differentiations between this, but I think as a support, your main role is to facilitate. And how do you facilitate? The drone gives you a little bit more utility and putting a lot more pressure onto the enemy laners. Then your Seismic Assault is where you get that extra duration on the stun and the knockup. And then your Void Bomb is just there to just put extra damage out later on. Let's talk items about Lieutenant Belica. So we want to give you an overall best build for most situations. Do keep in mind this is not going to be a one size fits all. This is just going to help you figure out the best builds for the certain things that you will see on the opposing team. So first, there's two different crests that you're probably going to go when you're playing mid lane. It's going to either be the Magician's Crest or the Oculus Crest. If you put everything in mind based off her abilities and her passive, your best bet is going to be going with the Magician's Crest. The reason for that is there's plenty of things in the Magician's Crest that you can use depending on the situation versus the Oculus Crest. The Oculus Crest is going to have your Typhoon, Obelisk, and Tempest. And Tempest is okay, but that's not what you're looking to do. You're looking to be a mage, right? So you're trying to burst down your enemy. Typhoon is for your trolley builds that you see people do, like attack speed Belica, which is not your primary duty to do auto attacks. Obelisk is probably one of those that are like, okay, this actually probably will work just because it gives you increased magical power throughout the game if you're building your stacks correctly. And if you use this after you do your Void Bomb and Seismic Assault combo, activate your Obelisk and finish them off with a basic attack, you'll be able to do a lot of burst damage. So if you are going to go to Oculus Crest, it would be Obelisk is the main route that you're trying to achieve. But for the Magician's Crest, you're going to be looking to go into Soulbearer probably. This is for anything that's like 90% of the games, right? The reason for this, it gives you increased movement speed, it gives you a shield, and it gives you lifesteal. Most of the times in situations, you're knocking people up to try and run away and get away, reposition yourselves to go back in and wait for your team. With Soulbearer, that gives you a shield, get 10% movement speed, a little bit of lifesteal. It gives you that time to either run away or it gives you enough that health from the shield to be able to survive a certain instance of abilities. Epoch is one of those that it's one of those things that, yes, you get to go into a stasis for 2.5 seconds, but most of the times it leaves you in a vulnerable state exactly where you were trying to get out of position from. Most of the times Epoch only works if your team is close by, but most of the time it leaves you in a vulnerable state. Yes, your 2.5 seconds of invulnerability, but there's very few times that Epoch really helps you out. Time Flux Band. It is a really flexible item for Belica just because if you're looking to be a little bit more aggressive, you can hit your Time Flux Band, rush on in, use your abilities, and then by that time you should be able to teleport back, and then you'll have your cooldowns on your abilities again to get back into the fight and just finish everybody off. The reason I say that is because with Time Flux, you mark your current location, you gain 20% movement speed, so that allows you to pretty much rush in, right? And after 4 seconds, you teleport back to your marked location, resetting your basic ability cooldowns, meaning everything but your ult. So not only are you getting off that really strong combo, if you hit that, you take care of somebody in a fight, you get teleported back, they probably clean up that kill, and you're able to go back in again with your abilities off cooldown. All right, so let's talk about support Belica. The two crests that you're going to want to go into are going to be your Consort Crest or your Keeper or your Guardian's Crest. I'm sorry. So your Consort Crest is going to kind of give you up to the Silentium, Tranquility, and Reclamation, which is your primary route you should be going in most situations. Your Guardian Crest does lead up into the Riftwalkers, Sanctification, and the Leaf Song. Honestly, out of any of this, your best bet for a support Belica is going to be Leaf Song. Sanctification is also a good option. It gives you tenacity if you're going against a high CC team. Riftwalkers, I really recommend not going to Riftwalkers. You're putting yourself into a dangerous position, and Lieutenant Belica is a backline to mid-range support. You're not necessarily a front line, but you're definitely in the fight, but you're also not trying to be the main person that they go into damage. But that's why, like I said, you want to go probably towards the Consort Crest. The reason I say this is it evolves into the 3 main items that you can be useful for Belica being in that mid to backline support. Tranquility 1 gives you a huge heal on a low cooldown. It goes to your allies, and it gives them also damage mitigation. Silentium, you can silence an enemy with a huge ult, or maybe the jungler while you guys are doing an objective. Let's just say there's a Gideon or a Narbash ult or a Kira ult. Silentium can do a lot for you to create peel, and it's a pretty long silence as well. Not only do you silence them, but if you read here, if muzzle interrupts an ability, you deal 150 damage plus magical plus phone's physical power damage to the target. So you're able to put a burst damage onto the enemy while stopping them from doing damage to you to allow you guys to get reposition or just to end that fight and kill the opponent. Reclamation. Reclamation is one of the items that when you look at it, you're like, yeah, this is great. It gives me a cleanse. But at the same time, you have to think about it of the composition on the opposing team. How many cleanses can you really get off, right? So this is already on a 150-second cooldown. So if the enemy team has a lot of CC, this is kind of a waste of an item. Or if they have maybe like 2 or 3 CCs, now you're probably in a better spot. If they have a Fae, this is really good against a Fae. But if, like I said, if they have a lot more CC on the opposing team, it is not going to be helpful, because yes, you'll get out of maybe like 1 rotation of CC, but there's a bunch more following it up, so it's kind of a waste. So when it comes to Lieutenant Belica, your first item you're probably going to be looking for in the mid roll is Combustion. Combustion is 200 cheaper than Megacosm, and it's a lot more effective early game than Megacosm is. Reason for that is Combustion, your next instance of ability damage will deal 55 plus 18% magical bonus damage to the enemy target and nearby enemy heroes. So not only are you doing extra damage to the person that you are hitting, but anybody surrounding that person gets damaged as well in a certain radius. This early game is just so powerful because nobody has health or armor yet. You're bursting them down based off of minimal protections and health that they have. Wraith Leggings. This is really good on Belica because, like I said before, when we're going over her abilities, she wants to knock people up and get away if she's trying to get out of a bad situation. When she does that, a little bit of movement speed is going to be good for her, right? So Wraith Leggings with the passive of Spectre, you deal damage and you get 100% movement speed for 1.5 seconds. That is enough for you to get into a different position and away from the enemy that is trying to do damage to you. Also, it's good for initiation. For instance, you get your abilities off on somebody that's running away. That gives you enough movement speed to close the gap to be able to get into range with your ultimate. Obviously, keeping in mind, most of the times you don't get your full ult with that 300 range radius until later on in the game, so this will help you out there. Also, abilities deal an additional 15% magical damage against enemy heroes below 40% maximum health. This goes straight into what Belica does best. Used your cooldowns, your ult is up, you're closing with that Spectre passive with that movement speed, and then boom, you're able to do extra damage with your Belica ult, pretty much taking the enemy out with your combo, and you're good to go. Time Warp is a close second best item if you're looking for a little bit more mana regen to help you a little bit more in sustain and lane. Obviously the Void Bomb gives you a little extra mana, but at the same time it's not enough most of the times, especially when you're a mid laner trying to just clear wave all the time and trying to rotate. So the mana regen on the Time Warp, the cooldown on it as well, and you do get a significant amount of power from it. You're getting 90 magical power with ability haste already on top, so this is a good second item in my opinion, if you're looking for that into your playstyle. But like I said, Wraith Leggings in my opinion is a better second option to get into what Belica is trying to do best. So as your third item, you're going to be looking to go Tainted Scepter here. The reason why I'm saying Tainted Scepter is most of the time in the game, this is around the time where healing gets to a point and regen gets to a point where it's like, okay, now you're changing to different ways in a fight and I need to shut that down. So Tainted Scepter coming in here to give you that anti-heal and reducing the healing for 40% for 4 seconds is ridiculous, right? Yes, you are going to probably build this even if somebody else has anti-heal, because the whole entire point of anti-heal is to be able to spread it around to their entire team, and not all the time are you going to be able to be either in range or damaging the enemy to put the anti-heal onto them. So if more people have it, it is a lot easier to spread it around. Do keep in mind it does not stack, but it is good to have that application on as much people as possible. Also, every second you gain a stack of Malice up to a maximum of 15 damaging enemy hero with an ability to consume Malice to deal 5 + 1 magical power per stack on the enemy. Takedowns grants maximum stacks of Malice instantly. Like before, I was telling you guys, Belica blows people up. You get a takedown, you already have this max stack already up, and then you go again and attack. You just keep doing a repetitive amount of damage onto enemy heroes. and this is just a great item overall. You get penetration from it, you get some health as well, and you get a pretty decent amount of magical power, so I don't see why. With these 3 core items, depending on if you go with Time Warp or Wraith Leggings, you should be doing effectively what you need to do as Belica. So when it comes to your 4th and 5th item, you're looking more towards what are these items that I'm looking to fill in. My 2 recommendations for you that will probably work most of the time is going to be Caustica, just because you get an increased penetration when you're above 50% mana, gives you 75 magical power off rip anyways, and then while you're below 50% mana, let's just say you're in an elongated fight, it gives you that extra mana regen to get you back up to that point to give you a little bit more pen on those tankier heroes. Oblivion Crown, you increase your magical power already by 15% on top of the 120 magical power you got and all the other magical power you've been building. This is a great 5th item. Your next instance of ability damage against an enemy hero will deal an additional 10% of their current health as magical damage. This is pretty much giving you penetration, but towards the health side of things. You're just targeting directly their health and you're just doing that much more damage to them. And if you round this build off with everything we just talked about, you are pretty much deleting people and just doing your thing. You have anti-heal, you have mana regen, you have movement speed, you have cooldown, you have that burst, you have everything you need to be the best Belica mid that you possibly can. Now, when it comes to items with support Belica, we're going to be looking towards helping your team, right? You're helping your carry, especially in the first half of the game and a little bit of your mid. And then after that, you're trying to enable the entire team. So we're going to try and build towards that. So a lot of these items that are slept on are going to be Martial and Requiem. So with Martial, this is a great item. It is cheap. It is only 2,600 gold. It increases you and nearby allies attack speed, and it also applies magical damage on hit for whoever is getting the passive as well. This is great. One, you're giving your carry extra damage, not only you, but your carry extra damage on your autos, which Belica is a range auto attack. So you guys have severe poke once you get this item already on top of what you have, especially if you're going against a melee support. But it also gives you increased attack speed, so you guys are able to do more DPS just based off of if you guys are just fighting with auto attacks, right? So you guys are trading better just with this item, and it's only 2,600 gold, and most people try to build into something a lot more. Requiem. I would like to say this, there is a caveat to Requiem. Most of the time, you're going to be building Hollow Braid as your first item to give you mana regen throughout the entire time, and then finish off Martial, and then by that time, you'll finish stacking Hollow Braids at 20, and then you should be able to get the full effect out of Requiem and finish building that. And these are the cheapest first 2 items you can go and to be as effective support as you possibly can, especially when it comes to those mid backline supports. So not only from the Martial, you're going to increase attack speed and extra magical damage, you're also now giving your nearby allies extra physical power and extra lifesteal. So not only are you better off in trading with more DPS at the time because you're able to attack faster with your autos, but you're also giving more power and being able to get some life back to your carry as well. So Dynamo is great for rounding out this core build here. The reason for this is you're already giving yourself magical damage on hits, so 2 types of damage with your physical, and you're giving better attack speed, so your DPS is a lot higher. Then you have Requiem pretty much filled out, and now you're giving extra physical power, and you're getting lifesteal towards your allies. And then now you have Dynamo closing it off with a 10% increased damage to immobilize enemies for 3 seconds. You're pretty much putting your team in the best situation possible with 3 of the cheapest items in the game to allow them to do their job while you're still being there, being a mid to backline support. So finishing off your core items, Galaxy Greaves is really good. It's a great item. It gives you magical and physical resistance, but it also gives you out of combat movement speed, and it also gives you the ability to have some sort of an escape with the passive of every time you get to 100 stacks, you'll be able to increase your jump height, kind of getting you out of some certain situations and just biding you time, or just being able for you to hop up on a ledge and get away. Another good item to round out for the 5th item is Raiment of Renewal. If you just need a little bit more oomph of just being there, take a little bit more damage, you can go the health route instead of the armor route, and just use Raiment of Renewal. You get 600 health, which is a ridiculous amount of health on an item, plus regen, plus mana, a little bit more ability haste, and the passive on this is just ridiculous with regenerator, 10% of damage taken over the 6 seconds. And then you gain health regeneration equal to 0.5% of your maximum health. You also get health from the Raiment of Renewal, the Dynamo, and the Requiem. So you're pretty much getting a significant boost in your health regen to be able to poke, reset, go back into that fight. We're going to jump into a practice mode here, show you guys a few tips and tricks about playing Lieutenant Belica and with her abilities. So I used some abilities, got rid of some of our mana. We're going to be looking over the Void Bomb. Passive of regenerating mana, just so you guys know I'm not lying to you and that Almeida is not lying to you. Excuse me. Essentially, we're going to be using 80 mana here, so we wait till around 480, but you'll see that we actually don't lose 80 mana, but we get some back as well. So it's like a little bit less than it actually is, right? So we're sitting roughly around 460. We use the grenade. We're back at 400. So it kind of dumbs it down a little bit for you, and you're able to kind of get back, and you're sustaining in lane a little bit longer. So next we're going to go over Seismic Assault. A pretty good tip about Seismic Assault is sometimes people don't notice that Seismic Assault goes through walls or travels along the path in the environment. So if I'm trying to get this buff or trying to hit this enemy, we're going to simulate this river buffs the enemy. I can be on top of here and it'll travel through and actually hit. So do keep that in mind when you're playing Lieutenant Belica. One more thing to watch out for is when you're trying to place your bomb on a ledge. Why are these minions attacking me? When you're trying to place your bomb on a ledge, you want to be careful when you're aiming it. If you have it on instant cast, you might misplace it. So going on quick cast just for this ability might help out as well. But you might try to place it up here, but you might look down a little bit too much. And it has a very funky way of getting up top. So maybe you're trying to quick cast it here, looking up, and just not on it. So next we're going to be going to the Void Drone. Void Drone is very situational where you want to place it. And placement is very key to it. Make sure you get the best out of it. So there's 2 recommendations that I have for you. If you're in the mid lane, doing anything as a mid, you want to kind of put them in a situation to where they either have to pick the drone or the wave, right? So if this wave is coming up and I know they're meeting, I want to put my drone out to, one, stop my mid laner from using their abilities, because the drone gives them free damage pretty much while taking away their mana. So I'll be placing it like somewhere over here, but still in range for it to be able to affect them as much as I can. Okay, so let's talk about if we're being a little bit more aggressive, and we essentially want them to pick something, right? So instead of placing my drone a little bit further out, I want to actually place my drone a little bit further in on the wave, like on the backside. So yes, if they want to basic attack my drone, they have to come up closer into the wave, and I just sit in front of my drone, have them attack me, and then now they hit me and the wave pushes towards them while they're still losing mana. Alright, so one other thing we have to go over is Belica's ult. Like we were talking about, once you level it all the way up, you get innovation to where it adds on a 300 units on top of your ult. So if I were to be aiming my ult right now, I am in range roughly around where my basic attack is, right? Just a little bit further. All right, so I'm able to ult from there. Now, when I go back over here to level it up, ooh, where's it at? Boom. I'm gonna go to max range here, and it's gonna be a little bit further from where my basic attack is, right? I'm able to pretty much be all the way back here and just pretty much hit this guy from a longer distance. That is my hero overview, going in a little bit more depth on Lieutenant Belica to help you guys out, especially for those newer players out there. So I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope you guys liked it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Hit the like button if you like it. Comment down below the next hero that you want to be seeing in the hero overview, or you might need some help with understanding. And if you hit that subscription button, I greatly appreciate it, and it'll help me out a lot and just help me keep making these videos for you guys. Thank you. Have a good one. See you.